Charlotte Soccer Show. John Hayes, Danny Brams. We're back. It's Tuesday morning, which means Danny and I are together hanging out on the show. It's great to see you this morning, Danny, and we've got a win to talk about this weekend. I'm pumped about Charlotte FC's 2-0 win at home. It's another Kahlina sheet. Finally, Kristijan Kahlina, Danny, is going to get some love on this show this season, and he deserves it for sure.
Hey, we're cooking now, baby. The crown is cooking. The crown is win. And you know what we're cooking? We're cooking a little chili cook-off for the Cincy folks. And the Queen City Derby, there's only one Queen City, and it is here in the heart of North Carolina. Johnny, one thing I noticed, there was a lot fewer Cincy fans, at least where I was at, pregame at Hot Fly. If you remember last year, we met a ton of Cincy fans at the pregame party. This year, there was only a handful of them. So maybe they had their fill of the Queen City last year and the road trip wasn't as enticing. I don't know. Maybe they were all just hanging out somewhere else in town. But it felt good. I felt good waking up on Saturday. Felt like it was a win was within our grasp, within our reach, and it paid off. I think the team felt confident. And it's just a better team this year. And it was nice to see Charlotte come out, and there was certainly some chances. Cincinnati had some chances to hurt us, but they didn't. And when Charlotte got their chances, they paid it off. And that's what Dino always likes to say, take our chances, right? And we took them.
Are we ever going to talk about the first half on this show is the big question.
Why? Who needs to? Who needs it, right?
0-0 at halftime. Another scoreless first half at the Keep is the second time that's happened this season. It happened against Atlanta in the opener as well. Nothing wrong with that, for what it's worth. I think going into halftime 0-0 and with the chance to win in the second half at home is always a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. Is it nice to get goals early in the first half? Of course it is. It sets the tone, and I think Charlotte FC will continue to work on that. And Dean Smith, no doubt, probably is talking about, hey, let's start the game with the same attitude that we've been able to start the second half with. But nonetheless, it's 1-0 to start the second half, early in the second half, Danny, because designated player Liel Abada finally gets it done. He scores versus Cincinnati. A really, really nice goal that I think highlights what Liel's skill set is, Danny. It's pace, and he showed it in this match.
Yeah, he punished a bad Cincinnati mistake. Let's check out the goal, and then I got to ask you a question about this because maybe it's a good thing he finished it. Let's just put it that way.
It's a bite. It's a bite on the set piece. And cleared away by Pepio. That's a backhander backwards. And this could be a 2-0 for Charlotte. Here's Abada being chased down, and it's Abada who tucks it away. Well, he had plenty of work to do. And a disastrous mistake from Cincinnati.
And that's what it was. It was a mistake from Cincinnati. Like, it was a good goal for sure. And it was nice to see Liel use his pace to score. And that's why I wanted to make that point, that it was about Liel Abada's pace. It wasn't about Charlotte FC's build-up. There was nothing that happened here from an offensive point of view. This is, I think, the poster child for a solo goal in soccer. This is what a solo goal looks like. And when you pay a designated player, especially in MLS, what you try to do is create solo goals. And Liel Abada, what I'm starting to realize is he's a solo goal kind of player. Yes, he'll arrive at the back post, Danny. He makes himself available for a one-touch finish. But if Liel Abada finds himself out in space with time and a full head of steam running towards the keeper, he's not afraid to get off a shot. And remember, Wilfried Zaha, his opening goal, Danny, was because Liel Abada made this same move, ran down the right-hand side with pace, fired a shot on Brad Guzan in that game against Atlanta, and Wilfried Zaha was there to finish things up. Liel Abada is making things happen for Charlotte, Danny.
Oh, he's extremely pacey. You see he ran about 3/4 of the field there to make that goal happen. It was a disastrous header back from the Cincinnati player. And that actually came off of a corner kick, if you can believe it. That you hate Charlotte's done this before, where we have a corner kick and then all of a sudden the other team's racing the other way and scoring a goal. So it was nice to see us be able to do that to them for once. And you see it out there at a certain point. He have slid this over to Wilf Zaha.
No, let's not get into that conversation.
I don't want to get into it, but I'm just glad he finished. If he misses that shot, the question's going to be asked. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, guess what? He didn't miss it, so it doesn't matter.
If it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, right? Yeah, exactly. So I'm with it. I love to see it. I love the confidence. I love that he backed himself. He bet on himself to score. He backed himself to be able to finish. And you can see he does glance over, but he's really not even thinking about it. He's thinking shot all the way, and I got no problem with that.
Well, another point to make, I think, about that goal specifically is that when you're running full speed like that and you've got the ball on your foot, it's really difficult to do anything besides take a shot in that scenario. It's really difficult to lay it off. Why do that when you've got a full head of steam and you've got the ability, like Liel Abada does, to finish? And it was a clean finish. It was a good finish, and it's really good to be talking about him on the show, because I think we've talked about Pep Bial quite a bit. We've talked, of course, about Wilfried Zaha, but Liel Abada is kind of that player for Charlotte FC that allows this team to be very good, right? Because you have a star in Zaha, you have a MLS MVP goalkeeper in Kristijan Kahlina, right? You have a young striker in Patrick Agyemang. Liel Abada is just somebody that I think adds a different layer to this team, Danny. It's really exciting to kind of see him out there playing well, being healthy, feeling fit. He's a married man now this season, full time, goes into the year married as well. I'm happy for him, and I'm really happy for this club, because Liel Abada was a big time signing. We had Grant Rutherford from Total Soccer Show on the show, Danny, talking about Liel Abada. It's one of our most watched YouTube videos.
Still the most watched YouTube video we've ever put out. You know, hope maybe this one can push it. Maybe talking about Abada will up the view count. Who knows?
But there's a reason why. I think this is. You can go back, by the way, if you want to learn more about Liel Abada, just take a look at that episode. It will hold up to today for sure. And I think what maybe we're starting to feel, what I'm starting to feel, is that same love for Liel Abada that the Celtics fans felt for Abada.
Yeah, and Celtic fans did love him. I think that he's a guy that you and I both cited in our preseason previews as a guy that needed to step up. He's a guy that we have heard Dean talk about as a guy who Dean's really loved what he's seen. You know, he was the first sub against Cincinnati. He was the first subbed out. I'd love to see him get more 90 minutes regularly as a DP. He was the first sub against Miami as well, and we both kind of questioned that, and we were talking about that match. And Dean came out and said, "No, Liel played great." Dean has constantly hyped up Liel's performances, even when the goals haven't come. So it's real nice to see that that payoff and the chance be taken and the chance be scored. And it's really important to get a goal there in a 1-0 match. If you look, I want to bring up something. I was going to bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now because we're talking about the match momentum. If you look at the end of the first half, Charlotte is just pouring it on there, right, and not getting anything, right? And it's like you need some payoff for that. It's great that they were able to keep that going after the half was opened and get 2 goals really quick. And Liel started it. Again, it comes off of a Cincy corner kick, and they make a mistake, and Liel punishes it. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, it doesn't, unless Patrick Agyemang steps up and slots a left-footed goal home just a few minutes later, which if you looked at that momentum graph, you saw that goal was coming, and quick fire goals, back-to-back goals to start this second half, this match momentum, to take advantage, to go into halftime, to see how much momentum that Charlotte FC had going into halftime, Danny, and to be able to go in that locker room and come back out and say, you know what, we need to get paid for our efforts. And they went out there and they hit the ATM and got 2 goals. Here's Patrick Agyemang, what it looked like for Pat just afterwards.
At times, Evander's occupied. Just a miscue on that header, but man, what a finish by Abada. Way to take their moment.
Liel sliding it through. Here's Patrick Agyemang! They're cooking now! And what a week for that young man!
And Teenage Hadebe. Actually, excuse me, it's Flores on this one.
Woo! What a beautiful goal. We are cooking now. And I just want to point out 2 things specifically about that goal. And number one is the finish. It's a left-footed finish by Patrick Agyemang. Yeah, if you've played billiards, Danny, you've gone to the pool hall. This is a left-footed strike right into the corner pocket. I mean, absolutely beautiful there from Patrick Agyemang. He gets it done. But don't forget about the classy weighted pass from Pep Bial right in the pockets, Danny. Pep, he's in the pockets again.
He was so in the pocket, man. He was so in the pocket. It was a beautiful slider. It was a great. We've seen this left-footed finish. This is like very similar to the left-footed finish Pat had against Nashville at home last year that won a match. This one was a cherry on top. It wasn't necessarily a match winner. But look at Pep in that pocket, right at midfield. He's in the circle with plenty of space, and no one really knows he's there. He gets a great pass from Malanda from the back line, and it's cool as you like, it's quick as you like, and it's a kind of a blistering quick, like instant counterattack. I mean, since he thinks they're putting some pressure on, all of a sudden Malanda finds Pep in the pocket, and it's go time. It's beautiful.
Well, what's remarkable is, and then I'm going to take that video back a second here, Danny, and you take a look at what happens with Pep Bial, and it's a 1-2 touch. I've got it, Danny. I'm controlling it here. It's a 1-2 touch here from Pep Bial. It's a 1 settle, 2 touch pass. It's a beautiful, beautiful move from Pep Bial. And those are the type of things that I think if you're watching with an untrained eye, you might not realize. When Wilfried Zaha is having a go at his teammates in the locker room, that's what he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. That's the type of classy midfield move, the type of quick pass soccer that allows you to score goals. And Pep Bial has the ability to do it. That's what happens when you sign players that play at a high level. They can receive that ball in the midfield space and make it happen. Just an unbelievable goal. I think right now it's my favorite goal of the season. It's not even close.
It's real nice. It's real nice. I still think Wilf's goal probably is my favorite just because I think that was so important. But that's a real nice one. I know we all love Pat. We love Pep in the pocket. So it's certainly a contender.
They're all good goals. Hearing you say that though, they're all good goals, right? Because the Zaha goal is strong. This Pat goal is strong. The Abada goal as well, really impressive. The one of the own goals at Seattle. Who scored the other 2 goals? Who scored the goal at Seattle? The first goal for Charlotte FC. I can't think of that off the top of my head. And then, of course, against Atlanta, there was a second goal as well. It was Zaha.
Malanda scored a season opener off a corner kick.
Yeah, 2 seasons in a row. Malanda, yep. And then against Atlanta, there was a second goal in that game as well. It was Zaha who got the second goal, I think, to make that match 2-0. Who had the opener against Atlanta?
Against Atlanta, that was Pep himself.
So when you think about it from that point of view, right? Now that we are 4 matches into this season, you've got Pep Bial, Patrick Agyemang, Wilfried Zaha, Adilson Malanda,
right?
Liel Abada. All these players are getting on the score sheet, Danny.
That's 5 goals and 5 different goal scorers.
That's right. And I apologize for giving you that pop quiz here early on a Tuesday morning, as I clearly couldn't pull it from my brain this morning.
I've only had a few sips of this coffee, so yeah, I'm still working on it. But yeah, hey, I'm quick to check those box scores, so I may make it work at least.
But we were able to land the plane, and making the point that this is not a one-man show. This is not a two-man show. Charlotte FC is 5 goals from 5 different goal scorers, 4 games into the season. Pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, and 7 points, and I believe we're in top 5 in the standings. I think, or up near the top 5.
Top 4 in the East, fourth in the East, which is what we talked about heading into the season, Danny. We talked about where does Charlotte FC need to finish this year? 4 games in, 4th place in the East, not too far off from Supporters Shield conversation. Now, 4 games in, you're gonna, not really have a Supporters Shield discussion, and we won't. But what you can do now is you can lose it. You can't win it right now, but you can certainly lose it.
Right.
There's
It,
teams.
thankfully. Yeah.
Exactly. There's teams at the bottom of the table right now that I'm taking a look at, like New England Revolution, and I'm thinking, I don't think they're going to win the Supporters Shield this year.
Yeah.
And they've dug them.
They've dug a revolution. Well, hell, they've
dug themselves a hole.
Revolution, so.
Yeah, they've dug themselves a serious hole.
The squad looks good. Zaha was just wide on another one of those same volley type shots where a ball fell to him and he took it on the first time and almost curled it into the corner net early in the first half. So Zaha was looking good. Zaha had another chance Kahlina played a great game, which we will talk about in a second. But since we're talking about Pat here, Johnny, let's first listen to what he said about the comfort level that he's feeling out there, because I think this is important, especially as he gets ready to go to the U.S. men's national team. It's great to get a goal under his belt here in domestic league before he takes off.
Yeah. I mean, it was opened up early today. I got in behind a couple of times, didn't capitalize the way I wanted to, but I felt more confident, and I knew something was going to happen just because I felt I was a little bit more isolated today compared to the past games, and I know when I got space to run, things can happen.
You felt like they were playing y'all pretty straight up.
Yeah, I think they just played straight up. We kind of thought they were going to play a back three, and they went to four in the back, and I knew as long as the center backs weren't close to me, both of them together, I knew I would have some room to work with, and I was able to get on the ball more and ultimately be more comfortable.
Translation, when you don't double team me, that's going to be a problem for you. If it's a one-on-one matchup with Patrick Agyemang and he can have a full head of steam and get running like he did ahead of that Pep Biel super pass, it's going to be really tough to keep up with Pat when he gets inside the 18-yard box, and you saw it.
Yep, it was. It's great to see him comfortable and smiling and feeling like he's. Another question in that same press conference, he was asked about, does he feel like he's getting more respect from the referees? He said yes. He said it's nice that they can see that, my frame is not preventing me from getting fouled. So that was great. And it starts to raise the question, John, we love to call Pat, but when does it become time to pay Pat? Because Agyemang is sitting on still his rookie contract. He's under club control through the end of this year with an option for 2026. So he could be there's no necessarily like super urgency, because we've got him for another year and a half here. If worst case scenario, nothing else happens. But you know how soccer contracts are. You don't necessarily want to let it get to the end, because then guys can walk away for nothing. I'm more concerned of if you think there might be bad blood building or resentment simmering under the surface, because the guy's he's contributing way more, like he's making $70K a year, which is not, I'm sure there's people out here listening to this show that wish they were making $70K a year. There's been plenty times in my life I would fall over backwards to make $70K a year. At the same time, it doesn't feel right for a guy who's making this much contribution to a winning club right now.
Well, he was asked about the contract after the match, wasn't he, Danny? So let's hear him talk about that before, I think, wading into the waters of whether he deserves to be paid now.
This is not about what he says, but how he says it. Read the body language here.
I mean, it obviously, both parties want to get something done, but right now it hasn't been finalized, so hopefully at some point it will.
I mean, he's thinking about it.
And I think he's been thinking about it. And we've been thinking about it, and we've talked about it. This is not a new story, Patrick Agyemang's contract status. And the reason why it's not a new story is because we've been talking about it for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to hammer home the point and plant our flag in the ground here and say, the reason why we've been talking about Patrick Agyemang's contract status is because the sooner that you signed him, the sooner that you realized he was your guy, the less you were going to have to pay for him. Right. You were going to give him a raise, but as these goals continue to flow in, as these United States men's national team call-ups continue to happen, I mean, Patrick's agent is just adding more expectation and more money to the deal. And the negotiation becomes harder and harder. That, to me, is the story. It's not whether, Charlotte FC is going to sign Patrick Agyemang. It's going to be why. The story to me is, why hasn't Charlotte FC signed Patrick Agyemang already? And that to me is the story. I don't want this to become a Liverpool situation. I don't want this to become a Virgil van Dijk situation. I don't want this to become a Mohamed Salah conversation, because I think you could argue, while there's been a lot of noise around Liverpool this year, a lot of positive noise for sure, and Liverpool's going to go to win the Premier League, which is phenomenal, a phenomenal achievement for that club. But I think that if you gave truth serum to every Liverpool fan, I think that they would tell you they're pretty disappointed right now. They could pretend like the season has been phenomenal. You could pretend like winning the Premier League is exactly what this team set out to do. But I promise you, 2 months ago, you didn't feel that way. 2 months ago, you were thinking about the quadruple. 2 months ago, you were thinking about the triple. and the double. And all of that has kind of fallen out of the wayside. You can't even get into the Champions League. What is it? Was it the quarterfinals? They couldn't even make the
out of the round of 16.
They crashed out of the round of 16 against PSG. This was supposed to be Liverpool's season. I think there's been a lot of distractions for Liverpool's season. I think the league has been a really nice way for Liverpool to achieve something this year. But I think the reason why the club hasn't been able to have the success across all competitions is because there's been too much chatter about this contract situation. And while I appreciate the question to Pat about the contract situation, was that the time to do it? Was that the appropriate setting to ask Patrick Agyemang about his contract, considering the contract technically isn't up until the end of next season? This has been a story already for months. He scores his first goals of the season, and we're talking about the contract right after the match. I don't know. It wouldn't have been my question in that scenario, but everybody has the ability to ask any question that they want. But me personally, I just think coming out of that home win, opening his account, we've already had the contract discussion. Everybody knows where that stands. If you're getting in on the conversation now and you want to ask about that after this win, go for it. You can, but that's not the story coming out of this game. Not even close.
Yeah, for me, it's I always say when I do the Decoding the Presser episodes on our YouTube feed, go back and watch them, everybody. I always say the quality of a question is usually determined by the quality of the answer that you get or that you can expect. And so you could see, I mean, I played up, Patrick's body language there, but really he didn't really say anything. He gave 10 seconds worth of an answer to say, yeah, we both want to get it done, but nothing's happening, and that's pretty much all you could expect him to say. I like the Liverpool comp that you made there. I think that's a really good, we'd be happy to win the league, whether Patrick got a new contract or not, I'm sure. I do think the other good point you make is that the price of the bag does keep going up every time he if they had sorted out an extension 6 months ago, they probably would be saving $1 on what they're going to have to eventually pay him. You start to get into this worrisome zone also that it's like, well, are they going to pick up the option at the current price and then just sell him in January to a mid-season in 2026? I don't know, but I want to leave the last word to our good friend Teddy KGB on this subject, because he kind of has he sums it all up for me like this.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Pay that man his money. That's all I can say.
A classic quote and scene from Rounders, of course. A great movie. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check out Rounders this week. Should we pay him his money? Feels that way. Feels like Patrick Agyemang has a chance to be a Charlotte FC player for a long time. That being said, I think realistically at this point, with no contract done, with the United States men's national team call-ups happening, with interest coming from abroad, I think the idea of Patrick Agyemang playing for Charlotte FC for the next 5 years is starting to fade away at this point, in my mind. I think the trajectory is heading towards something different. I think the trajectory is heading towards something else. That's why I think right now, don't expect any contract to get done in the next 6 months, in my opinion.
If he is here in September of 2026, I think that there's going to be a lot of people disappointed, especially him and his agent, for sure. No doubt. But one guy who did get paid, Johnny, and I think it's time to turn. We've talked about goals, but we got to talk about goal prevention, because Kahlina had another great game after he signed an extension to stay at Charlotte FC for a while. I'll play the sound full version here now, and then we can call up the silent version and analyze some of these. But some really nice saves from Kristijan Kahlina here.
This is a clean build up the other direction for Cincinnati. Kubo. Evander. Quick trigger himself. Kahlina makes the save. Angle on the follow-up all the way across. And Denke couldn't get an outstretched toe to it. Pavel Buka. Adorashano. He'll let it fly. And Kristijan Kahlina, with his first acrobatic save of the evening, denying the Argentine.
He plays it to Orejano, and nobody steps to the ball. Orejano has all the time and space.
Orejano. Kubo still running with it, and Kahlina with an outstretched foot able to make the save. It was really good pursuit.
Lost on the road to Miami. They want to be near the top of the Eastern Conference at the end of the season.
Evander from a long way out, and Kahlina makes the save, preserving the clean sheet. Fist across. Santos trying to get there. It looks like a foul on Malanda, and indeed it is.
A little too much on the challenge inside the box. He's trying to keep the ball in play, and Kahlina, I mean,
Good stuff.
Kristijan Kahlina, I'm glad that we had that rip of saves for a couple different reasons. Obviously, the goalkeeper's getting it done, but secondly, Danny, I think it showed what the defensive strategy was for Charlotte FC on Saturday night. There was a lot of shots from outside the box. I think Charlotte FC was willing to give Cincinnati chances from outside the box because Kristijan Kahlina is such a great netminder. He's somebody that they can trust, and he's proving to be, Danny, one of the best goalkeepers in MLS. And obviously that's easy to say after winning the goalkeeper of the year award last year in MLS. But hey, individual awards are only good for 1 year. You got to back that up. And he's doing that to start 2025, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and this save that we're looking at right here now from Orejano, outside the box, but he does have to make a diving save. That was the one that set up the corner kick that Cincy borked and then led to the Abada goal. So very big moment. You can see some defensive lapses here. I think right there, letting Yaya Kubo get past two guys in the box to get a chance was not good. I love this save because it's right at the end. You know, I mean, if that ball goes in, Charlotte still wins, but the fact that Kahlina's still sort of locked in, focused on the clean sheet in the 93rd minute, I think is a big deal. And Evander was frustrated all night since he's new superstar number 10 DP. And Kahlina, you love to see him locked in there. I think, as you said, shots outside the box is key. I've always said one of the reasons Kahlina is so good is that the Charlotte's defense forces low quality shots. And there's the good one as we watch Orejano here again. You look at Tim Ream pointing like, "Hey, somebody get this guy. Wilf's not back." Maybe didn't expect the shot to come from there. And Kahlina, it was a great shot. Kahlina had to make a nice save here. I wouldn't necessarily call this a defensive lapse. That's just a really nice shot from the winger Orejano for Cincinnati. Ream probably did the right thing by watching his back and not stepping up there. Here again, this is Malanda. Not his finest moment there, allowing Yaya Kubo to get in, but Kahlina's right there to clean it up. So I don't really have anything bad to say about the defensive effort, but it is nice that when Cincy's offense was able to get something going, Kahlina was there to be the backstop and to make it so that the Crown was never really in too bad of a shape.
I think what Dean Smith would say is we'll give Cincinnati those type of shots all game. It will take a worldie to beat Kristijan Kahlina from that distance based on his run of form at the moment. I think one thing that's really interesting about Kristijan Kahlina as he continues to play well is that Dean Smith has tactically set him up for that. Right. I think when you think back to where he struggled, he's not very good with the ball at his feet. He's a shot stopper, and he's settled into that role here for Charlotte FC. And when this team decides to build out of the back, it's not starting with Kristijan Kahlina. It's starting with one of the center backs, which is a really good thing for this club. And Kahlina is potentially the guy that can get this club into the supporter shield conversation. Because when you've got to keep, we'll talk about playoffs when they come, because at this point, Danny, the only thing that matters to me is supporter shield, because Dean Smith said that's more important and a better reflection of success in MLS. So I'm with Dean. I don't care about the MLS Cup right now at all. I'm thinking about supporter shield and supporter shield only.
Hey, we're always all with Dean. Dino's at the wheel. Here's what Kahlina said about his efforts when he was asked post game about keeping the clean sheet and how it feels with everyone helping him to do that.
For me, coming from the game by game, I have this pressure from last year what I did, but I don't feel it because I train well, and I know that the games like this will come even more in the future because I feel good. I felt that I'm in the form even now. And just keep going. And I think even defense today play really well. They give me something what I can save it, and they didn't have some clear chances like what happened in Seattle. Like both goals was like clear chances for them. And I'm here when they need me.
That's exactly what you said.
He's the man. He truly is. I think he's confidence personified right now. That's what Kristijan Kahlina is. And I think that is something that really gets through the team, right? It filters through the team is what I'm trying to say, is that when Kristijan Kahlina is confident, I think most of the team is confident. Here is the SofaScore ratings.
I mean, look
Danny,
at that, 8.6.
Thanks for putting this together, Danny, this graphic together. One of my new favorite features of Charlotte Soccer Show is looking at these SofaScore ratings. And damn, it looks pretty good. Everybody above 7 except for Ashley Westwood. We can have that conversation at some point in the next couple of weeks. We're not going to have it today. But look at that bench. Quality players coming off the bench as well. Toklamati, Eric Williamson, Jabril Diani, Kerwin Vargas. That's what depth looks like too. Well, this team, Danny, looks pretty good right now.
It's a real nice. It's pretty. It's very pretty. I mean, just green all over the board, and the light blue for Kahlina. I'm glad Diani got in. I'm glad Vargas got in. We did not see Tavares. I guess Tavares is going to be a guy who kind of comes in when we're chasing a match, if at all, like we saw against Miami. Toklamati, not as much of an impact this time, but didn't need to. He was just kind of, I mean, we were already up 2-0, nursing a lead at that point. He's still a great young player that we love to see out there. But
he is. It's exciting. I think right now, what we didn't have in the past that we have now, Danny, is kind of that striker who, maybe it's kind of like Pat in the very, very beginning, where you had a raw talent, you knew that maybe there was a high ceiling, and you were interested to see him get a few minutes and what kind of impact he can have. Toklamati is that guy this season for Charlotte FC. It's exciting that there's somebody else to take up that that mantle for Patrick Agyemang, that young player who's got a high upside that you really don't count on for anything except for coming in to make an impact.
Right. And we saw he was able to make an impact against Seattle. He got a shot not on target, but off the post. He did get the shot off the post against Miami. And just, the team looks good. We would love to see Westwood join the green crew here.
We're going to have a conversation about Ashley Westwood here in a couple weeks. I'm going to give him a few more matches. I think 6 or 7 matches before we really dive in, because it's been a poor start to the season.
Yeah, and at a certain point, like, he's my captain. As you can see, he'll always be my captain. He's here on my screen. He's here in my backdrop. But if a guy like Zaha really takes over the offensive load and starts really banging home goals, is there a captaincy situation going into next year? I don't know. We'll have that conversation later. We don't need to have it right now, like you said.
Well, I'm not thinking about captaincy. I'm thinking about what position is Ashley Westwood playing, and where is he best suited to make an impact on this squad? That's all. That's all that I'm talking about. I think I'm not saying that Ashley Westwood should be benched. I'm not saying that he's not somebody that FC can count on this season. What I'm saying is that I think right now, based on the changes this offseason, Westwood is finding himself in an interesting role. And we're going to talk about what that role is. Even something as simple as free kicks and corners. We'll share some photos on social from our friend Matt Geslin, who did a great job shooting the action. There was a moment where Pep Bial and Ashley Westwood were standing over a free kick. They were having a bit of a laugh as well. I just want to have a longer conversation at some point with you about how Ashley Westwood could make the biggest impact this season. And if that's being like a straight up defensive midfielder and helping the back line and letting Brant Bronico and Pep Bial, his midfield partners, press forward, that's fine with me. But I think we kind of need to see that play out.
I agree, and I love the captain. So it would be interesting to see his role evolve. I know that he loves this club, and whether he's getting a green rating on SofaScore or not, he is making contributions to a winning effort. So I'm certainly not criticizing. One thing that we can say, though, is as we see what happens with Ashley Westwood and the rest of this team, there's a new way to see it, Johnny, because unbeknownst, I don't know if the folks out in Cupertino are happy about this or disappointed about this or not, but there's a new way to watch Charlotte FC games here in town, because one of the local TV stations has picked up the over-the-air broadcast. TV64 is going to be showing Charlotte FC games for the rest of the season. I believe they showed this. The first one was this past week against Cincinnati. How do you feel about that as someone who like, we have season tickets, so we get the MLS season pass for free. But if you're someone who shelled out for the Apple MLS season pass, and then all of a sudden a few weeks later, like, oh, you can actually watch the games for free now. Where do you sit with that?
Well, before I answer that question directly, this decision to me is not out of left field. This is directly comes from the article that we referenced in the Athletic last week, the anonymous survey when GMs talk about the Apple deal for MLS and how it really isn't doing what they expected, how it's really difficult in local markets to reach a casual fan, to reach new fans, to be available. And I think this is from Charlotte FC a direct reaction to that. We had a conversation about how difficult it is to go around town on a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon if the game is then and find Charlotte FC on in bars and restaurants because of the Apple TV situation. And now TV 64, potentially allows this to happen. I have a digital antenna at the house. I'll certainly be watching the games on TV 64 because I would prefer to watch that type of broadcast over a streaming broadcast right now, for sure. I just think it's a great service to people in this community, and I'm going to take advantage of that. I think it's the right thing to do. So I'm really happy that Charlotte FC did that. With all that being said, to answer your question, it feels like a bit of a ripoff. If you did sign up for Apple TV, you got bait and switched. Hey, guess what? 4 games in, you don't need it anymore. If you want to watch Charlotte FC, you can just watch TV 64.
Yeah. If you don't like Severance, you might be wasting a little bit of cash on the Apple for sure.
Well, and I don't want to make it about money, but I think we're going to talk about money on this show quite a bit because it's part of the experience. Considering we're both season ticket holders, considering I had an email a few weeks ago asking for $300 for 2 extra Leagues Cup games that I decided against. I didn't think it was worth it. I think there's a lot of and my feedback, truthfully, to Charlotte FC about being a season ticket holder was give us perks that don't require extra cash. Yeah, that's it. And when I continue to get emails as a season ticket holder that says give me more money, I say shouldn't you be giving me things now because I've already given you a lot of money. So I'm not going to give you the extra $300 for 2 Leagues Cup group stage games. I'm just not going to do it. Sorry. And I'll take the one that you've given me for free with my season ticket package. Thank you so much for that. And the other 2, somebody else can have tickets to those games.
Yeah, and they do the Crowns Up and Away. I mean, I think Crowns Up and Away is a great program, and I think other clubs might have it worse. I've guested on a Miami podcast with a couple guys, Danny and Chris, who are great dudes down in Miami, and I was like rubbing it in their face about some of the perks we do get because Inter Miami season ticket holders get treated way worse. So it could be better, it could be worse. I'm with you that it doesn't feel good to get hit up for more money, like if you, especially because that came out like right when you paid off. Like if you're on the 6-month payment plan for the season tickets, you do your last payment, in February, and you're like, okay, whew, I'm done. I'm good for the season. And then you get an email hitting you up for Leagues Cup cash right after that. So it's a little annoying. I agree. I do think your earlier point is a great one about the fact that these games need to be on at sports bars, and you're going to attract fans casually by people who look up and say, oh, I'm out at the bar. Oh, Charlotte FC's playing. Oh, I should go. That looks fun. I should go to one of those games when they might not have considered it before. There were 28,000 in the stadium against Cincinnati. You could see some patches of empty seats early when I was watching it back on Apple TV. I was paying attention to that on my rewatch, and I was like, oh, it looks a little empty to start the match, but it did fill in eventually. So we'll continue to monitor attendance and how that goes throughout the season. But 28,000 is a great number. I think it was 3rd in the league for Saturday for home attendance. So they're relative to the league, it's doing well. Relative to a couple of years ago in the Joe LeBou era, when they were getting 35, 36, 38 as opposed to 28. I don't know if that's going to make David Tepper happy. I think there's probably some regret at letting your club president go and turning it into a chief business officer model. It may be a little too early to be feeling regret, but I think that regret would be felt. Full disclosure, I consider Joe a friend, so I'm on a personal level. I hate what they did to him, but I do think even from a business side, he was good at getting butts in seats. That's what his job was, and I think he did a good job of it. So we'll see. I'm glad that Charlotte FC is more accessible overall, but it is a continuing storyline that we're going to have to continue to monitor as things go.
And we're just having real conversation about it, right? Like we're just Sure, we could belly up to the bar and tell you everything's great about the club. They just got a 2-0 win and potentially thinking about supporters shield, but there's a lot happening here. And we're going to, and the reason why Charlotte FC, the reason why Charlotte Soccer Show exists is so we can have conversations like this. And a conversation like this that I think is worth having today. Is turf still an issue at the Fortress? I think yes. And the reason why is because I watched a lot of soccer this past weekend, and then Charlotte FC popped up and was playing on turf, and it just felt so gimmicky to me. Like I just didn't see it anywhere else all weekend long. Turf, it just, and then they popped up on turf, and I thought to myself, man, really? Like we're still doing this? We're still having this conversation? And the thing that I just can't let go is the fact that you've got Charlotte FC players, you've got Panthers players, you've got athletes who you're paying big bucks publicly stating that they would prefer to play on natural grass. We've got Charlotte FC does, the Panthers do, one of the richest owners in North American sports, world, global sports. And we're just not making the effort to get it done, to have turf there. I think that Charlotte FC will never be a big club while they have turf. Now, does that mean that my feeling is different about the club? Does it mean that I'm going to stop going to matches, stop watching them? No, not at all. But I think globally, when you've got turf, it's just a sign that you're not at the highest level of soccer.
Yeah, it's gimmicky is the perfect word that you said, and it's also it causes players to not want to sign here. Like, there's some players. I mean, we were able to get Will Zaha. We're able to get a Westwood. We're able to get a Liel Abada, the Pepiel. We can attract players still, but there's gonna be guys who the turf is an issue that's going to prevent them from wanting to sign here. If it's leaning one way or the other. Our friend Keegan, I was talking to him at Hot Fly pregame. He's someone who grew up playing soccer and knows a few guys in MLS. He's mentioned to me that he's talked to friends of his that are MLS veterans that he was like, hey, why don't you come play for our club? And they're like, yeah, sorry, can't with the turf, And I'm not going to give those names away because it's not really my place to, but like I'm 1 degree away from knowing people, I guess you could say, that have said that it's a big issue. And we know there's always a question of, is Leo Messi going to play on turf? He played on turf against Atlanta to his detriment, which we'll talk about in just a second. But as far as the Fortress is concerned, as far as the Club World Cup coming here, they're gonna put the turf in for the Club World Cup. They're gonna put the turf in 20.
Put the grass. You're talking about
the grass. Excuse me. Yeah, the grass. They're gonna put the grass in for the Club World Cup. They put the grass in when U.S. men's national team wants to come here, when there's international matches. So it just doesn't. It just rings hollow. Like that's the thing that irks me the most, John. Is like you will do it for other clubs and other national teams, and you won't do it for your own club. And I get you don't want to be changing out grass every week, and that does get expensive, as they say. But I mean, come on, like at a certain point, you got billions and billions of dollars. How much? It's like for David Tepper, I don't like for David Tepper changing out the natural grass every few weeks in the stadium is like me getting a cup of coffee, and so it becomes hard to sympathize. And I'm not here to spend other people's money necessarily. I always say that, but it just the complaints about cost ring extremely hollow when you know the true situation on the ground.
It's very well said, for sure. And we'll continue to have the conversation. I think there's been some folks in and around the organization that have tried to throw cold water on this conversation. In fact, I've seen people say, stop talking about the turf. Oh, they're talking about the turf again. I think what I would say in response to that is, please don't tell people what to talk about. I mean, seriously though, like let people talk about what they want. And
every time we talk about it, folks want to listen, so that should tell you everything you need to know.
Right. And I just, if there was grass at the Fortress, if there was a beautiful, and I've been to those matches, I've been to the United States national team game, I've been to the Copa America semifinal, right? I've been to these massive moments in that stadium with grass on the field. And let me just tell you this, it feels very different Okay, that's it. So if you haven't been to a game with grass yet, hold off until you go to one of those and see how different it is. Because the key is, Danny, it legitimately changes the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
The surface is different. The surface is firm. The surface is hard. The balls bounce like crazy. It's wild. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The game is different. I think it gives Charlotte FC a massive home field advantage, which is interesting. But I would trade that right now for some fresh grass on Saturday night against San Jose.
Looked at that the Pat goal was a beautifully weighted pass by Pep. I think on grass you could see more of those. Like guys would be able to send more of those types of passes, and like Liel's not. They say the game is a little bit faster on turf versus grass. I don't think it's going to slow Liel Abada down. So I don't think grass is going to cost us either of the 2 goals that we saw against Cincinnati. I think it would probably lead to more goals being scored by Charlotte FC. So
we're not going to see grass on the pitch on Saturday night. But what we will do, Danny, is we will see San Jose at the Fortress, the Earthquakes coming to town for, I believe, the first time in club history, if I've got that right.
Yeah.
First time that these 2 clubs are playing.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very fun. A first at the Fortress on Saturday night. I'm going to look forward to that match for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No Ream.
Yes, exactly what I was going to say. Patrick Agyemang out here. What does that do? What's your prediction for Saturday night with no Patrick Agyemang? Does Wilfred Zaha move into the striker position? Does Idan Toklamani get his first start? How does Dean Smith deal with that?
Well, and also I should say there's no Abada. Abada got called up by Israel, so it's no Israel, no Abada, no Pat, no Ream. I think Toklamani is going to start in Pat's place. I think Kerwin Vargas comes in to start on the wing for Abada. I'm not sure about who replaces Ream. I'm more concerned about that because, Charlotte FC signed Suleiman Doumbia from Standard Liège in Belgium. We talked about him a couple episodes ago. He's a left back by trade. We have not heard. We should hope to hear later this week from Dean on his Thursday presser if Doumbia is going to be available. I think if Doumbia is available and if his visa's all sorted out, then he does come in and take that left back position just by default because there's really no one else to do it. I mean, they could put Micah Thomas, the draft pick, in there, but I think that's a trouble spot. I'm not so concerned about up top. To answer your question of what we'll see, I think it's going to be Toklamani and Vargas, and those guys are not quite as good as Pat and Abada, but I think they can get the job done. San Jose has had a stronger than expected start to the season. They're not as bad as they have been in recent years. They're a club that's sort of on the rise out in the Western Conference. But Charlotte will be able to score goals. I think Zaha, it becomes incumbent on Zaha to really pull the strings. I don't think he'll be I think he'll stay out on that left wing position, but he might drift a little more centrally. And Toklamani as a striker, I think Toklamani's a guy who's made more of an impact coming from the outside in. So I think there's going to be space to occupy there that maybe Vargas moves into, maybe Zaha moves into. But I'm a little worried more so about what the back line is going to look like. We saw Kahlina give huge shout outs to the back line for setting him up nice. We've seen great tactics be employed by the club and in creating bad shots by opponents with no Tim Ream at left back. Is that still going to be the case? We'll have to see.
I think it's a really fun opportunity to see the depth. It feels like, and I'm going to start thinking about these international break MLS matches like this. It's its own little cup match. Sometimes I feel like this feels like more of a cup match than it does a regular season match, right? Because you're going to be playing with your depth. You're going to be seeing young players. That's exciting. I'm really excited to see a new lineup on Saturday night against San Jose. And it's a reason for me to continue to play through these international breaks. I know it's a hot topic. People don't like MLS playing through these international breaks. I think until MLS gets on that global schedule, which it might after the 2026 World Cup, for now, I'm totally cool with playing through these breaks because we get these kind of faux cup nights at the Fortress, like we'll get on Saturday night and see some of these new young players take the pitch, and maybe it'll be a coming out party for Idan Toklamani, and maybe next time Israel goes to call up Abada. Toklamati might be right there with Abada for the Israeli national team. But anyway, no, I think at some point we're going to talk about Messi. We're going to talk about his start to the season. That'll be on another episode. We're going to have a conversation about load management, like what's going on with the Messi situation. I didn't play against Charlotte FC, but then played on the road in CONCACAF Champions Cup against the Jamaican side. I thought that was an interesting move for Messi as well. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna continue to follow that story. Messi's been a huge, obviously, boon for MLS, but things are starting to get a little weird right now, and I want to follow that story for sure. But my prediction on Saturday night is Charlotte FC keeps it going. Kristijan Kahlina gets another clean sheet. I'm not worried about missing Tim Ream on that left-hand side. I'd be more worried about missing Malanda at the center back position. I think somebody can slot in there and play left back. This week at availability, maybe we've got a chance to or somebody has a chance to ask Dean Smith about Suleiman Doumbia. Maybe he gets his visa sorted. I know it takes weeks, probably a little too tight this week, but maybe somehow they get that process expedited and he's available for a debut on Saturday night. I know he's been in practice, but the visa situation obviously takes some time. But that's all I've got for today. It's great to chat with you, Danny. It's great to be riding the wave to start this season.
Yeah. Tuesday morning recording sessions have got a great rhythm for us, Johnny, and I'm hoping that the Tifos are out there loving the schedule that we've kind of found ourselves in here. We've had to move things around every once in a while to make it happen, but it's going good. And this was a great, fun episode. Great chance to talk about another big win. Charlotte FC is cooking, and let's keep it going. Let's let that dish simmer, and maybe it's going to taste real nice if we keep racking up these wins. What can I say?
Enjoy the match on Saturday night, back-to-back weekends at the Fortress. And my official prediction, I said, I think it's a clean sheet. I think it's a win. I think Charlotte FC keeps rolling. And next week, we'll be back here talking about it as always. Danny, you got a prediction?
I'm going to say 3-1. I'm going to say goal fest at the Fortress. Charlotte scores a bunch, but lets one in. That's my official prediction.
I'm John Hayes. He's Danny Brams. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us on X. You can follow us on Blue Sky. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Threads. You can find us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate, review. It's great to chat with everybody. And as always,
it's for the crown,
baby.